This is one of the world's most dangerous roads. And it leads to a place on Earth like no other. A place where trees cannot grow, where ice shapes the land in bizarre and otherworldly ways. And only life supremely adapted to the cold can survive. The Dalton Highway of Alaska pushes far beyond the Arctic Circle, a lifeline carved through harsh and unforgiving terrain, existing and only existing because of this, one of the single greatest engineering feats of all time. Our destination is the very end of the road, where the edge of North America meets the Arctic Ocean. The question is, can we make it in one piece? In 5 years living on the road, we have never put our bus through a test like this. Come make the journey with us. Experience part of the world few have seen, and join us in finding out what it's like to drive Alaska's most feared road. Into the Arctic we go. Welcome aboard. This is not your average road trip. The Dalton Highway stretches 414 miles across the most remote expanse of the Alaskan Arctic. We will pass through the boreal forest, cross the Arctic Circle, climb a steep and dangerous pass over Alaska's northernmost mountain range, then cross the vast Arctic tundra to finally reach the Arctic Ocean. There are only 3 small settlements along the route, 2 places to fuel up, and no services. When venturing to a remote place like this, anything could go wrong. So you must prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. Before we get on the Dalton, we make an important stop 9 miles north of Fairbanks, Alaska. The Dalton Highway cannot be explored nor appreciated without understanding its role and connection to the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. It's hard to express just how groundbreaking the construction and engineering of this pipeline was. This single silver thread stretches 800 miles from the edge of the Arctic Ocean to the ice-free port of Valdez, Alaska in the south. It traverses 3 mountain ranges, 500 rivers and streams, and 4 major fault and earthquake zones. Here at this site, we are allowed to walk right up to the pipeline, not a replica, but the actual pipeline itself. As we speak, thousands of dollars of crude oil are flowing above our heads. We get to look closely at its structure, in particular these fin-like heat pipes that super chill the ground, keeping the permafrost frozen and the pipeline stable. We also see devices called pigs that are used to clean and inspect it from inside. This older model was used in the early pipeline. This model is used today. In order to build the pipeline, a new road had to be carved through one of the most remote and harsh environments in the world. A road which wasn't even open to the public until 1994. If you just found us now and you are new to the channel, then welcome. We are Cora and Jose, 2 artists with a mission to take this beautiful beast from Alaska to Argentina. Bobby is our home and creative space on wheels. If we can complete the Dalton with no pop tires, no major breakdowns or tows, and an intact windshield, we'll call that a win. We hit the road at mile 0, excited for the journey ahead. Now, the Dalton cannot be done in a day. It is an expedition that must be tackled in steps. Our first major landmark will be the Yukon River, 56 miles away. But we will stop to sleep soon. Even though this is midnight in early July, the dim light of nighttime doesn't do this region justice. It's worth it to take it slow, because what we will see between mile 0 and the Yukon deserves to be explored by the bright light of day. The Dalton Highway spans 3 distinct regions, each with its own plant and animal community adapted to its environment. Right now, we are in the taiga, also known as the boreal forest. The taiga is the largest forest ecosystem in the world, forming a band that encircles the entire northern hemisphere. The first 50 miles of the Dalton cut through the taiga, which is often called one of the lungs of the planet. It covers 17% of Earth's land surface and stores twice as much carbon per acre as tropical rainforests. So far, the road is kind, but we don't let our guard down. We're lucky to be driving when the roads are dry. The narrow packed lane and soft muddy shoulders say it all. This road in the rain would not be fun. Before we know it, we arrive at a force of the natural world, the Yukon River. The mighty Yukon River is the longest river in both Alaska and the Yukon Territory of Canada. It flows nearly 2,000 miles from its headwaters in British Columbia through the Yukon, which is named after the river, then through Alaska, where it finally empties into the Bering Sea. To give a sense of just how big and powerful this river is, its average flow is about 250,000 cubic feet per second. Despite its sheer length, there are only 4 vehicle-bearing bridges that cross the Yukon. 3 are in Canada, and only 1 is in Alaska. The E.L. Patton Bridge was completed in 1975. It is 2,295 feet long and 30 feet wide, a steel girder bridge with a timber driving surface. It transports both vehicles and the pipeline across the Yukon. During construction of the bridge, a staging area was established on the northern bank of the Yukon, and a camp remains here to this day. It's here to provide food and lodging, and it's one of the 2 places to fuel up on the entire route. The cost of diesel today is a whopping $7.50 per gallon. If you can believe it, this isn't the most expensive diesel we've ever bought. 2 years ago, we paid over $9 a gallon driving up the Alaska Highway. Now, this is only one of 3 places to eat on the entire Dalton Highway, so we duck in to enjoy a hot meal. We are 135 miles from civilization, and we can already feel the disconnect from the rest of the world. Cell service ended a long time ago, and even internet isn't easy to find. The cafe at Yukon River Camp is humble and cozy. We especially love seeing this wall, covered in handwritten signs from travelers across the globe, translating the original sign that kindly asks visitors to stay out of the kitchen. It's things like this, those little acts of camaraderie, that make the world a better place. As do little acts of kindness. So we'd like to take this moment to say thank you to our new friends who surprised us today and treated us to this delicious meal. The next section of road is notorious for its steep grades and often slick conditions. Hills on this stretch have nicknames like Beaver Slide and Roller Coaster. If you're curious who named them, well, it's important to understand that the Dalton is not here for us. The road was built as a supply route to the oil fields of Prudhoe Bay. The bay is icebound a good portion of the year, so the main way to transport all the tools, supplies, and machinery for the massive operation up there is by semi-truck. That's why the road was originally called the Haul Road, and the badass truckers that drive it year-round have names for parts of the road. Names like Surprise Rise, The Ice Cut, and Oh Shit Corner. This is where we start to put our bus to the test. The hills are deceiving. They don't look steep until you're on them, and the potholes make it really hard to gain momentum. So it's a bit nerve-wracking, but our Bobby tackles hill after hill after hill. We make it to Finger Mountain, a place of special significance, not realizing that tomorrow morning we'll get a knock on the door from a surprise visitor. Now this encounter is one for the books. Rewind a few weeks, and we are driving through Alaska en route to Denali National Park. We meet an ambitious young traveler from Germany on a journey to ride his bicycle from Vancouver Island to the Arctic Ocean. We joke that we travel so slow in the bus that he will probably beat us there. And sure enough, he did. Now here, in a beautiful little traveler's twist of fate, our paths cross again on the Dalton, us on our way up, and Luis on his way down. Let's see here. Okay.
Please, go ahead. You don't have to wait for us.
For the camera, like.
So you're thinking the entire trip, this is the toughest?
Yeah. This is, I think, the first gravel road, big gravel road I've done. I mean, it's not even gravel road, it's just mud. It's a lot of time, just mud. Especially with the rain. It's tough, but I love it. I love the adventure, especially on this kind of road, when it's a lonely road, you know, where people take care of each other. That's what I like. I'm excited to go to South America too. Like, my plan is to Canada and then maybe work again and then down the States and South America, whole South America. Alright, ready for the road again, huh? Keep going. Nice. Alright, I got everything. Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
There's a lot of things you're carrying in this bike.
Yeah, so here in front I just I mean, this is my tent. It's not the good stuff, not the pro stuff, but it's, you know, it's working, so it's pretty basic. Like what I got here. It's just a stove. Just a stove, one pot, and then some electronic devices here, power banks, drone, and then my clothes are here, just, you know, my suitcase, and then I got my pillow, my sleeping bag, mattress in here. It's quite big, everything. It's not like the small tiny stuff. And on the other side I carry some food too, so I got all the bag full of food and some food here and a stove and a pot, and that's it. And of course I got some small things to repair the bike too, some tubes or whatever. Carry this kind of things, rain pants. Yeah, nothing too crazy, but yeah.
But you got everything you need in there.
Everything I need and everything to survive. Easy. My whole life. My whole life.
Well, it's been awesome.
It was so nice to meet you guys. Honestly, like, maybe see you on the road, like Canada, America, South America.
Stay in touch.
I will be there. I will be there.
Yeah.
We'll see you
And
somewhere.
then see you somewhere. Yeah, you never know.
We have a feeling this isn't the last time our story will share a page with Luis's. This is one of those beautiful and also slightly tragic parts of life on the road. When you meet a fellow nomad, you get to connect with someone who really gets you, and you get them. There's an ease and understanding that can be hard to find elsewhere. But then that same thing that brought you together makes you say goodbye all too soon. We spend a few days in the company of Finger Mountain, an unmistakable landmark in this wide open landscape. Once upon a time, native peoples of the interior knew it as a prime spot to watch for game. Later, bush pilots used it to aid in navigation, as the finger conveniently points towards Fairbanks. Finger Mountain, just like its neighbors near the bus, is a granite tor, a block of hard, durable granite that resists erosion while everything around it is more easily whittled away by time. This granite dates back 110 million years, when it first cooled from magma that crept into cracks in the bedrock. There will come a time in this drive when we leave the trees behind, but we're not there yet. The Finger Mountain area is an upland region, rising just high enough above the surrounding boreal forest that here alpine tundra prevails. The tundra is dominated by hardy, ground-hugging plants that withstand hurricane-force winds and temperatures of 80 below zero, and creatures that amazingly can withstand the same. Every now and then, willow ptarmigan, Alaska's state bird, pop in and out of the shrubbery. These tough little fowl are currently in their summer clothes, dappled brown to blend in with the tundra. Come fall, their plumage will shift to pure white to camouflage with the land in its winter form. One can only imagine this land in that form, wind-swept and frozen, covered in pure white. It must be quite a sight to behold. Our goal today is to reach the mountains and cross Adigan Pass. Snow falls year-round up there, so this hot, sunny day just might be our window to get over safely. It's 150 miles away, and there is a whole lot to see between here and there. At mile 107, we pass Old Man Camp, one of more than 31 working camps that dotted the route during the pipeline's construction. Now, most of them, like this one, are little more than relics of the past. The road shifts back and forth between gravel and pavement. And honestly, it's hard to decide which is preferable. The gravel has more potholes, but the pavement is frost-heavy. Still, overall, the road is being kind. So kind, in fact, that in no time we arrive at a big milestone of this journey. We made it to the Arctic Circle!
I can't believe it has been almost 5 years since we got on the road. Bobby Bus made it, and now here we are.
Yeah, and here's to hoping this old Florida bus can get us now all the way up to Dead Horse. Okay, we're gonna leave a little baby Bobby here at the Arctic Circle. Right about there. The Arctic Circle is an imaginary line that circles the globe at approximately 66 degrees north of the equator. Here, on this line, the sun never sets on the summer solstice. The farther north you go, the more days of 24-hour sunlight you get, until reaching the North Pole, where the sun doesn't set for 180 days. In the winter, the exact opposite is true. We now push north of the Arctic Circle. The amount of land up here is staggering. 3 national wildlife refuges and 1 national park protect over 37 million acres of land up here. Much of the rest is state and Alaska Native lands. In the distance, we see a glimmer of the challenge that lies ahead, crossing the Brooks Range. Just like the pipeline, we will have to climb over that great boundary. When the pipeline descends on this side of the mountains, steep grades cause the oil to speed up, and the pump station ahead plays a critical role in re-regulating flow. In total, 12 pump stations are positioned along the pipeline, each capable of moving 22,000 gallons of crude oil per minute. 4 of the pump stations are in use today, and while most of them move oil along, Pump Station 5 is charged with slowing it down, as thousands of gallons of hot crude descend out of the Brooks Range. Here we also see a critical feature of the pipeline's design, the zigzag formation. This allows for expansion or contraction of the pipeline due to extreme temperature changes, as well as play and movement during an earthquake. We are still in the taiga, though approaching its northern edge. In Alaska, the taiga is dominated by spruce, but these tall, skinny pipe cleaners look a lot different from their Christmas tree kin to the south. Up here, spruce trees grow slender and far apart to intercept the slanted sunlight that they receive, and an acutely short summer forces them to grow slow. Here, a tree that has lived 150 years may have a trunk just 2 inches across. We are now moving through the Jack White Range, a mere prelude to the Brooks Range just beyond. The road continues to shift back and forth between pavement and gravel. The biggest challenge is not getting too comfortable on those smooth, even stretches that make you want to hit highway speeds. It's tempting, but frost heaves and deep potholes come out of nowhere, and this is not a place to pop a tire or break an axle. In 1971, the coldest temperature ever recorded in the United States was logged here along this stretch of the road. The temperature reading came in at a whopping -80 degrees Fahrenheit. With daylight to spare, we arrive in Coldfoot, Alaska, gateway to the Brooks Range. Coldfoot is just about as sparse as Yukon River Camp. It began as a gold mining camp in 1900, and the story goes that many miners got cold feet and turned back after experiencing the harsh reality of winter here. The camp was abandoned with the discovery of gold 10 miles north, and it wasn't until the construction of the pipeline that Coldfoot was resurrected into a construction camp. Today, it serves as the last stop for food, fuel, and water on the Dalton. There's a tire shop, a trucker's cafe, humble lodging, and not much else. After this lie 240 miles of pure wilderness until Deadhorse. Though there is an award-winning gem just across the road. The Arctic Interagency Visitor Center is a partnership between the National Park Service, the Bureau of Land Management, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And it is an amazing place. This is where we dive deep into learning about the unique and extreme environment of the Arctic. The margin for survival is narrow here, and only the most supremely adapted species can call this place home. We are both excited and nervous for what lies ahead. Excited because we are about to leave the familiar behind and enter a strange treeless land. But also nervous because this is where we begin the climb into that great wall of the north, the Brooks Range. Today is the day we leave the taiga behind and venture into that great barrier of the north. Sweeping like an arc across Alaska's wild north, these mountains separate two worlds, the forested taiga of the interior and the vast treeless plains of the Arctic. At 700 miles long, they form America's longest east-west trending range and cover a fifth of the state of Alaska. Yet they are so remote and so far north, only a handful of communities call this place home. Small lakes and ponds dotting the taiga are actually thermokarsts, sinkholes of the north. When ice in the ground melts, craters form that then fill with snow meltwater in the spring. Standing like a sentinel at the gateway to the range, Sukikpak Mountain rises to a height of 4,459 feet. Sukikpak means Martin Deadfall in the language of the Inupiat, Alaska's northernmost peoples. It is so named because when viewed from the north, the mountain resembles the balanced log of a deadfall trap. Sukikpak is a monolith of pure limestone thrust into the sky. Limestone forms in tropical marine environments, which means that, yes, strange as it may seem, a page of the Brooks Range story includes a time when a warm, shallow sea covered the land. Fossils of clams, coral, and other marine creatures can be found even on the high ridges of the Brooks Range. During this journey along the Dalton, you may have noticed that sometimes the pipeline courses alongside us, and sometimes it disappears entirely. Where does it go? That is part of the genius of the pipeline's engineering. 420 miles of the pipeline is insulated and elevated above ground. This was done in areas where the oil's heat could melt the permafrost and destabilize the pipeline. The rest of the pipeline's 380 miles is buried underground. We climb steadily into the Brooks Range, and the trees are still holding on for now, but we are rapidly approaching another big milestone in the journey, the moment we cross the tree line. The Arctic tree line is one of the most significant ecological boundaries on our planet. It circles the globe's northern landmasses, marking the point at which conditions are simply too harsh for trees to grow. The tree line is not a hard, linear boundary like the Arctic Circle. It is dynamic, shifting with the conditions and contours of the land. In fact, this stretch of the Dalton is ground zero for scientists currently studying the tree line's rapid progression north as the climate warms. As we climb, we can feel it. The tree line must be close, and sure enough, it's right around the bend. We round the corner, and the spruce trees are gone. A few tall shrubs hang on, and then quite suddenly, we're crossing the tree line. We just climbed onto the Chandelar Shelf, a broad glacial valley that acts much like a stepping stool into the range. We are now officially past the tree line at 3,200 feet and climbing. This valley is a major avalanche zone in the winter. The pipeline lies buried to our right, too precious to risk destruction from slides. Throughout the winter, artillery shells are used to clear the slopes above the highway. Just another example of how the reality of this highway changes with the seasons. Even with these incredibly good driving conditions today, we feel the risk of this road. On the Dalton, the rules are very clear. Truckers have the right of way. If we have to share the road with anyone here, we'll be the ones sliding in thick mud. And we know how our bus handles in mud. Not well. Luckily, we make it through without meeting anyone, but it does feel a bit out of the frying pan and into the fire, because we are rapidly approaching one of the biggest tests of the Dalton. Adigan Pass. Alaska's highest year-round mountain pass, a steep, unrelenting climb to the summit, fighting 12% grades and loose gravel, all on a slender ribbon cut into the mountainside. The margin for error here is zero. We have been on edge about this moment because up here, even high summer can't protect you from dangerous road conditions. Snow falls year-round, and rain can transform the pass into a slick, muddy slide with little to no visibility. We are hyper-aware that we are asking a lot of this old bus. But you know what? She rocks it. After a 2.5-mile climb, Adigan Pass tops out at 4,700 feet in elevation, the highest point on the Dalton Highway. Now the descent begins. Another 2.5 miles of equally steep downhill grades on an equally narrow ribbon of road. Coming up was a test of Bobby's engine. Now comes the test of her brakes. Breathing a big and grateful sigh of relief, the road levels out beneath us and we come out into Adigan Valley. Our bus made it through, and we are ready for the next stage of the journey. Crossing Adigan Pass and dropping down into the northern side of the Brooks Range is, in a very real way, like entering a whole different world. We have entered a treeless world of blinding extremes where frozen ground and sunlight dictate every rule life must follow to survive. And in crossing Adigan Pass, we traversed yet another significant boundary on planet Earth. The Great Divide of the Americas splits North and South America in two, stretching from Alaska to Chile. On the eastern side of the divide, all rivers lead to one ocean. On the western side, they lead to another. Before Adigan Pass, every river we saw eventually ends in the Pacific or the Bering Sea. Now here on this side, every waterway we see is destined for the Arctic Ocean. To our right, the Adigan River braids along the valley floor, right at the beginning of its journey to the Arctic Ocean. The river seems as fitting a companion as any for a couple nights' stay in the Brooks Range.
Oh, those are beautiful. I made you some tea.
Oh, thank you.
My pleasure. Cheers.
It's funny how perspective works. Camped here within the very spine of the range, we are surrounded by a burst of life. Wildflowers are in full bloom, green carpets the ground and creeps as high up the mountains as it can go. It's easy to forget that this version of events is extremely fleeting. Life up here has just a few short months to awaken, reproduce, then prepare for the deep freeze once more. We are witnessing a land in the maddest of scrambles before the sun disappears and the long darkness returns. The range begins to show its other face. It's mid-July, but that means nothing here. A cold, wet wind sweeps down from the peaks, chilling and reminding us where we really are. Our goal today is to make it all the way through the range and catch a glimpse of what lies beyond. The broad, glacially carved corridor of Adigan Valley is our path out of the mountains. We witness the relentless movement of freight to and from the oil fields and marvel at the grit of the Dalton's truckers. We have the luxury of waiting to drive on good days. They don't. Through mud, blizzards, squalls, and sub-zero temperatures, they haul. Driving this road in the summer has its challenges. We can't even imagine taking it on in the winter. The mountains here tell a story written in dramatic and tilted layers. About 150 million years ago, the collision of two tectonic plates thrust all that ancient seabed into the sky. Layers that were once horizontal were folded, twisted, and tilted, and in some cases, even inverted. As strange as it may seem, here the sedimentary layers of this ancient seabed are upside down. It's hard to drive for miles alongside the pipeline and not marvel at the speed with which it was completed. When oil was discovered in Prudhoe Bay in 1968, the country was in the midst of an energy crisis, so the rally around this project was swift and spared no expense. It took 5 months to build the road and only 3 years to complete the pipeline. We made it through the Brooks Range, and the next stage of the journey awaits. But we're tired, so we decide to camp and rest up for the night. We awake near the shores of Galbraith Lake, all that remains of a glacial lake that once filled Adigan Valley. After that ancient seabed was thrust into the sky, glaciers, wind, and time set to work. Over the past 3 million years, the Brooks Range has been glaciated 3 times, carving it into the form we see today. We are surrounded by an unfathomable amount of wilderness in every direction. Gates of the Arctic National Park lies to the west, and the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge to the east. Combined, they protect over 28 million acres of the Brooks Range and North Slope. A North Slope that now awaits right at our doorstep. We've been blessed with another incredible driving day, and we're taking it. We now enter the third and final ecoregion of the journey, the one which will prove most unfamiliar of all. The sun is shining, spirits are high, and then we make our first big error on the Dalton. We get cocky. After our bus killed it on Adigan Pass, we're thinking that it's all literally downhill from here. Then we hit roadwork with single-lane traffic and deep, slippery mud. Here is where we get our first real, true taste of what this road can become when conditions aren't ideal. And it's not fun. This is the first time we feel a little trepidation about the drive back. What if we don't get the same conditions on the way back down the Dalton? With the sketchy roadwork behind us, we can breathe out and take in the strange, foreign world that is the North Slope. The North Slope is aptly named. A long, gentle slope of Arctic tundra stretching as far as the eye can see, leading from the edge of the Brooks Range down to the Arctic Ocean. Only low, ground-hugging vegetation can survive the fierce wind, dark, and cold of this region. Here, snow falls year-round, there are only 6 weeks of summer without frost, and the sun never rises from November 18th to January 23rd. We're not the only ones making our way down to sea level. The Sag River courses to our right, one of the major waterways of the North Slope. Sag is short for Sagavanirtok, an Inupiat word for swift current. Strange fishes swim these waters, species like Arctic grayling and Arctic char. In a way, we are now reunited with the Adigan River. It joined the Sag River 20 miles upstream. About 60 miles from the ocean, the North Slope levels out onto a wide coastal plain. Imagine driving for days on a rough, rustic road, and then suddenly it shifts to this. The last stretch of the Dalton is pristine, almost like an award for making it this far unscathed. To be here, in this place, is a big moment for our journey across the Americas. To venture this far north was always a gamble, a risk we took on, and we're so happy that we did. The coastal plain of the North Slope is a truly fascinating place where strange animals roam and even stranger features mark the landscape. Little do we know just how much of this place is about to reveal itself to us. With only 5 inches of rain per year, the coastal plain should be as dry as the Atacama Desert. And yet, it is a vast, marshy wetland stretching as far as the eye can see. How can that be? It's all because of the permafrost. Permafrost is ground that stays frozen for 2 years or more. While about a foot of soil, called the active layer, thaws and refreezes every year, the underlying permafrost does not. Here, the permafrost forms an impenetrable barrier beneath the coastal plain, trapping water on the surface. The wetland it creates is a boon for migratory birds who flock here from across the world. They come from Asia, Africa, South America, even Antarctica. In summer, the plain bursts into life, providing a short-lived but bountiful buffet of small fish and insects, grasses, and sedges. Here on the coastal plain, the permafrost can reach up to 2,000 feet thick. Ice does strange things to the land here, both below and above the surface. Ice wedge polygons are one of those bizarre features. They form when the ground contracts and cracks in winter, similar to a dry lake bed. The following summer, water fills the cracks just to refreeze and further force the ground apart come winter. It takes centuries, but eventually enough freeze-thaw cycles will turn an otherwise uniform landscape into this. Another ice-formed feature rises in the distance, a lonely hill in an otherwise flat landscape. This is a pingo. Once upon a time, this pingo was a shallow pond that insulated and kept the ground beneath it from fully freezing. When the pond dried up, the permafrost encroached, encircling and then squeezing water from the unfrozen soil. This squeezing forced the water upwards, where it froze in an icy mass that pushed up the land above it. Migratory birds are one thing, but it's hard to imagine large mammals eking out a living in this marshy land. And yet, they do. It's not only birds that take advantage of the coastal plain's bounty. Alaska is home to 31 caribou herds that migrate with the seasons, following food and the best place to birth their young. In summer, they feast on tundra plants, mushrooms, sedges, and willow. In the fall, they will migrate to the Brooks Range and survive mainly on lichen. Calves are born in early June and must grow quickly to prepare for the fast-approaching winter. Healthy females give birth to 1 calf per year, spending their summers caring for their current generation, then rut begins in the fall and the cycle starts all over again. By late August, bulls will begin to shed the velvet on their antlers, marking the start of the breeding season and the fall migration south. Once in migration mode, caribou herds can cover a surprising amount of ground, traveling up to 50 miles per day. Mosquitoes constantly harass caribou, to the extent that scientists believe migration patterns take this bothersome nuisance into account. North Slope caribou come to the wind-swept coastal plain seeking relief, and they often climb to higher ground, even elevated roadbeds, to catch a break from the bugs. Out here on the coastal plain, the Sag River spreads out wide, braiding unhindered across the land. One Arctic creature loves to congregate in the patches of brush hugging the river. Musk oxen are supremely adapted to the harsh conditions of the Arctic. Their secret is a dense underlayer called kiviot. Kiviot is a prized and valuable fiber, softer than cashmere and 8 times warmer than wool. Their kiviot is covered by long, coarse guard hairs that protect against snow, wind, and ice. Both males and females have horns, but those of males spread out at the base, forming a thick 4-inch cap of horn with 3 inches of bone under that. This protects the brain when bulls engage in fierce battles during rut. At the end of the last ice age, musk oxen roamed widely across northern Europe, Greenland, Asia, and North America. But by the 1920s, only a handful of herds remained in the world. In 1930, 34 animals were brought from Greenland to Nunavik Island, Alaska, where they thrived. That population was used to successfully reestablish herds across the state, and now more than 4,000 musk oxen exist in Alaska. It's hard not to get lost in wonder witnessing this landscape and the creatures that call it home. We do start to see infrastructure in the distance, which can only mean one thing. We are about to arrive in Deadhorse, heart of Alaska's energy sector and the end of the Dalton Highway. It's pretty remarkable that we can even come here. The Hall Road was opened to the public in 1981, the same year it was named after James W. Dalton, an Alaskan engineer heavily involved in Arctic oil exploration. But at that time it was only open to Sukukpak Mountain. It wasn't until 1994 that non-commercial traffic was allowed all the way here to Deadhorse. In 1968, oil was discovered in Prudhoe Bay, and both the Arctic and Alaska's economy were changed forever. Along with a haul road and pipeline, an industrial camp was needed to support operations. A company called Dead Horse Haulers was contracted to provide the gravel for a landing strip, and the name stuck. Dead Horse is not a town. This place is all business. Workers fly in for 2 to 3 week shifts, then fly home for the same amount of time off. When they're here, they work all day, every day. There's a post office, general store, gas station, and a few hotels. Everything else here speaks to the massive operation underway. Since 1977, the oil fields of Prudhoe Bay have produced 18.5 billion barrels of crude oil. Filling the tank here represents a full loop in the energy system. In a twist of irony, fuel is very expensive right at the place it is pumped out of the ground. That is because the oil is not refined here. It must be sent down the pipeline, shipped from Valdez to a refinery, then trucked all the way back up the Dalton to arrive here in its consumable form. Here in Deadhorse, wildlife mingles with industry. A bizarre juxtaposition and a reminder of just exactly where we are. The Arctic Ocean lies just a few miles north. We are at the edge of North America, and that is a pretty big milestone for this old bus and these two artists.
We made it! We are so happy that we made it here in one piece. Bobby, it's amazing.
Throughout this journey, you've seen us add to sticker collections at key landmarks. It's a beautiful thing, this traveler's tradition. In a way, it represents the intermingling of lives, paths, and stories. All of these travelers drove the exact same road, but our experiences and our stories are as varied as the stickers before you. In our story, this marks the end of one chapter and the start of another. After 5 years on the road, we reached the northernmost point we can drive in the Americas. Now, the mission is to reach the southernmost point all the way in Ushuaia, Argentina. Between here and there, a whole world of stories awaits. And the Arctic Ocean? It's just a few miles north, and we have a mind to jump in those icy waters to kick off the long journey to Argentina. Join us as we literally dive in and begin the next season and chapter of this journey next time on Art We There Yet? Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give us a like.
Subscribe to our channel.
Send us a comment below, and for exclusive content and a behind-the-scenes view of the Art We There Yet journey,
Join us on Patreon.
see you over on Patreon.